Okay, it's going to be a WWE pay-per-view rewind for 2011, and with this year right here, it was definitely a step up from 2010. Most people would agree that 2010 wasn't a very interesting year. Some would consider it one of the worst years in recent memory, and then with 2011, it was definitely a step up. You saw the pay-per-view buy rates increase, which is pretty remarkable considering. Every year with the technology, you would expect the pay-per-view buy rates to decrease. But, you had the return of The Rock, you had the emergence of CM Punk, and then bang, you just had a really interesting year with just a lot of crazy things going on. So, there is some mixed feelings on the year. There was a huge debate about whether, what was a better product, Ring of Honor or WWE. A lot of people still thought, WrestleMania was a huge letdown, and there was just a lot of they had a lot of cleaning up to do in the main event scene and the whole roster as well. And but I think as the year goes on, you definitely felt excited about the WWE going into 2012. So for my personal taste, I thought it was a good year. I thought they really kept, as the year went on, particularly going into the summertime, I thought the product was really engaging. Just a lot of great promos from CM Punk, Triple H, Vince McMahon, John Cena. And, I just thought this was one of the most creative. And, there was just a lot of creative and a lot of exciting things that happened during the year. I would agree, though, not everything was great. There was some, bad main events, particularly the main event of WrestleMania, just to name a few. But, let's get right into it. For the last video, I started with the MVPs, so I'll just switch things up and I'll do the MVPs last here. First part of the video, I'm just going to break it down old school style, pay-per-view by pay-per-view, and talk about the pay-per-view buy rate, just talk about, the championship matches and the matches that helped draw the show. So we start off with the Royal Rumble. This is actually the first ever 40-man Royal Rumble, the biggest Royal Rumble in history. As the champion, you had Edge coming in as the SmackDown World Heavyweight Champion as a babyface. This was during his whole spear versus, spear thing, feuding with Vicky Guerrero and Dolph Ziggler heading into the Rumble. And on Raw, you actually had The Miz, who just cashed in his Money in the Bank after Survivor Series. So he's the WWE champion, facing Randy Orton once again. I believe he defeated Orton at TLC. And, he actually cashed in on Randy Orton. So this is the rematch at the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is usually a good pay-per-view to do a rematch. To me, like, when people talk about the Royal Rumble buy rate or the success of the Rumble, to me, it really doesn't matter what the championship match is. I mean, there are some years where you have Rock versus Jericho, Triple H versus Foley, Angle versus Benoit, but it's really tough to give the credit to the WWE Championship match, because to me, like, the what draws the Royal Rumble is usually the Royal Rumble match. And even in 2002 when Triple H returned, it's hard to ignore the fact that Triple H didn't boost the number of that buy rate. I think they did like 660,000 buys for that Rumble. So, but to me, the biggest draw of the Rumble is the Rumble match itself. You could pretty much put anybody in the championship match, and I still think the Royal Rumble's always going to do well, a respectable pay-per-view number. But with this one right here, I think there was a lot of excitement because it was 40 men in the Rumble. I think people expected a lot of big name returns like Triple H, Undertaker, maybe even The Rock. I mean, there was probably a lot of speculation going on. I remember being quite disappointed with the actual entrances. I just expected a lot of big names to come back. Really, the biggest names that surprised people was Kevin Nash and Booker T, who got huge reactions. The WWE was kind of banking on Randy Orton's surprise entrance being a huge pop, but that kind of fell flat. CM Punk pretty much dominated the Rumble. At the time, Punk was part of the Nexus, and he showed a lot of charisma, a lot of domination. Punk pretty much controlled the Rumble throughout the first half of the match. I really thought this was a huge opportunity to have Punk win the Rumble, but that did not happen. The winner of the Rumble actually ended up being Alberto Del Rio. So this is a huge victory for Del Rio. He was in store for a huge push on SmackDown. going into WrestleMania, becoming world, possibly becoming world heavyweight champion. I believe the last guy he eliminated was Santino Marella. Santino basically fooled everyone and didn't officially get eliminated. So Del Rio eliminated him. He eliminated Orton. There's a couple other guys that he eliminated. He came out, towards the end of the match. But, the important thing to remember here is Del Rio was going to get a huge push. There's a lot of hype behind him. Some people compared him to The Rock. Maybe if The Rock and Eddie Guerrero had a baby, it would look like Alberto Del Rio. A lot of charisma, a little bit goofy. A lot of people thought he was great on the mic. There's just a lot of people, really loved him because, finally we have someone with, the Rock's type of charisma. But in my opinion, Del Rio's push, it kind of fell flat. I really did it. I really thought it was a little bit forced. I thought Del Rio was a good wrestler. See, everything about Del Rio to me was good. He was a good wrestler, had a good look, had good mic skills, but nothing about him to me was great. And I just think there were some mixed feelings on Del Rio. I think there was people in the WWE that wanted to push him. And I think you had other people that was like, let's hold back on it. Because, how do you win the biggest Royal Rumble ever, 40-man Royal Rumble, and then you go into WrestleMania against Edge and you open up the show? It just makes no sense to me. And I think that really hurt Del Rio. To be honest with you, I think it hurt the Royal Rumble as well. I just think that's a big no-no to have the guy win the Royal Rumble. Then you have him opening WrestleMania in a World Championship match that kind of seemed like an Intercontinental Championship match. But yeah, so Del Rio wins the Rumble, biggest Rumble ever. It was quite a surprise. It was kind of a step in the right direction of pushing new talent. So I do like that Del Rio won. I just think when we look back at his overall WWE tenure, I just think it was quite disappointing because he just had a lot of hype around him. Like a lot of people just thought he had so much charisma and that he was going to set the world on fire. And he didn't really end up becoming a main eventer, in my opinion. He was really one of those guys that you think of that was a world championship match on the middle of a card. The Sheamuses and the Dolph Zigglers, you kind of throw him in that class. But on the other championship matches from the Rumble, you had Edge taking on Dolph Ziggler for the World Championship. This actually opened up the show, and at the time, Edge was on SmackDown. And, Edge was such a great heel, but when you move, see, it's, to me, in my opinion, it's so much easier to get over on SmackDown, as a babyface. It's a little bit tougher on Raw, but there's just been a lot of times where, I don't think the SmackDown crowd is just a little bit more family oriented, just a little bit more receptive. It's just, to me, it's just like easier to get over. I remember one time in 2004 when, Triple H they announced him to come out on SmackDown, and he just got like a massive pop, even though he was so hated on Raw. And it ended up being Kurt Angle being the GM. But you get my point. Like I just feel like it's so much easier to get like that classic babyface reaction on a SmackDown. So Edge, they had to turn Edge babyface because he started doing this spear thing, and it really caught on with the fans. So Edge and Vicky Guerrero, I think she was like the co-general manager of SmackDown at the time, and she and Edge always had a relationship. Edge always kind of used her, to get ahead in the world title scene. But at this time, Edge was a face, and she started having an affair or started going out with Dolph Ziggler. So Dolph Ziggler was like her boy toy or whatever. So yeah, man, Edge and Ziggler had an awesome match here. But after the match, I believe that the Vicky banned the spear, just like they banned the Hell's Gate from the Undertaker a couple years ago. It's kind of like a reverse on that. And they stripped Edge of the world title, and I believe she awarded the title to Dolph Ziggler. And then Theodore Long stepped in, and he stripped Ziggler of the title and gave Edge his rematch, so Edge won it back. So basically, I believe Dolph Ziggler was world champion for a day. So I think Ziggler's a two-time champion. So he won. This is the first time he won it, and then a couple years later, I think he cashed in the Money in the Bank on. I believe it might have been. Was it Del Rio or was it? I think it was Del Rio. So that's how it goes there. So the other match from the Royal Rumble, it was the Miz taking on Randy Orton. And with this match right here, this is CM Punk coming out with the Nexus and getting his revenge on Randy Orton. Because back in the day, a couple years ago, at this point, Randy Orton actually screwed CM Punk out of the title before one of the scramble matches at Unforgiven 2008. So he said to Punk, he said, the world champion is a complete fluke, complete joke, and he actually kicked him backstage. So Punk wasn't even allowed to defend the title. So they waited almost 2.5 years to follow up on that program, which was a big mistake in my opinion. I think Punk and Orton, should have main evented a WrestleMania. I think that was a good storyline. I thought it was refreshing. You could have played with Punk versus Orton main eventing WrestleMania 25 or even this WrestleMania of WrestleMania 27. But Punk and Orton ended up being an undercard match. I thought Punk coming out of nowhere delivering to go to sleep to Orton while the referee was down. I thought it was an edgy thing to do. I thought it was exciting, unpredictable. It didn't really, it kind of came out of nowhere. But Punk chose now to get his revenge on Orton, and it was really cool. It was I don't think anyone would have believed the Miz retaining over Orton again. So there we go with that. I thought that was not a great match, but I thought you had a pretty exciting finish. So the Rumble came off pretty well. I mean, Del Rio winning was pretty exciting. The two championship matches were, I would say, they were both good but not great. And we'll move on from there. So next up, you have the Elimination Chamber. You have, once again, just two great world championship matches. The buy rate wasn't as good as 2010. I think the buy rate was a lot better in 2010 because you have more star power like Triple H and The Undertaker, and then you had Shawn Michaels screwing Undertaker and Jericho winning the world championship. So I think you had a lot more star power in 2010. That's why the buy rate it dipped a lot. I think they went from like 280,000 to 212,000. With the Elimination Chamber, you're always going to get a pretty good buy rate. The Chamber matches definitely delivered again. I thought they were both great. They were both pretty great, actually. Basically, the side attraction for this was Del Rio goes over Kofi Kingston pretty easily, and then The Miz actually takes on Jerry Lawler. So they kind of used Jerry Lawler as a great way to build up The Miz as a heel. I thought that's what The Miz needed. Plus, you're not going to put The Miz in a chamber match, so you got to have him do something on the pay-per-view. So at the Chamber, I would say Edge and Mysterio stole the show. The SmackDown Championship match opened up the show. Yeah, Kane, Wade Barrett, Drew McIntyre, a lot of bigger guys in this Chamber match. Good storytelling. The way the Big Show got eliminated by Mysterio was pretty fascinating. But the story of the match is Edge and Rey Mysterio. I mean, give these guys credit. I mean, at this point, it was almost 10 years since the SmackDown Super 6. But both Edge and Mysterio carried the match. It came down to both of them. The kicking out of the spear, counters to the 619. High spots into the glass. So Edge and Mysterio, they had great chemistry. Whether they're tag team partners, whether they're going against each other. This isn't the first time where they tore it up in the Chamber match. If you guys remember, in 2009. They both Edge, Mysterio, and Jericho, they eliminated Cena, shocked the world, and put on almost a 5-star Chamber match, some would say, back in 2009. But they even continued the greatness over in 2011, and this was great stuff. So some of the SmackDown Chamber match ended up being one of the best of the year. And then the Raw Elimination Chamber match. The story of the match was Randy Orton and CM Punk. Basically, Punk locked himself into the chamber, and I think for some reason Punk couldn't come out of the chamber. I think it might have been his doing. He was trying to be kind of shady about it. So once he did get eliminated by Orton, they let him come out of the pod again. And once he did come out of the pod, he was able to hit the go to sleep on Orton. So basically, it's kind of hard to explain. It was pretty creative, actually, but it was a good way to eliminate Orton, but at the same time, it elevated the Orton CM Punk tension to another level. So that was pretty much the most memorable thing in the match. But, you had good star power here. I think Punk, Orton, and Cena, that's a good foundation to tell a good story in the Elimination Chamber. So Cena actually goes over Punk in the finals there in that chamber with the STFU. Punk took a brutal attitude adjustment on the steel grate. So I thought the chamber match definitely delivered. And Cena, Cena was going to the main event of WrestleMania once again against The Miz. Basically at the Royal Rumble, they kind of gave it away with The Miz screwing John Cena out of the Royal Rumble. That was one of the bigger storylines coming out of the Rumble. So that kind of gave it away. You kind of knew they were going to go Miz versus Cena at WrestleMania, even though it was kind of a underwhelming main event. I think, in retrospect, it was cool the way everything played out at Money in the Bank. But in retrospect, I think, Punk and Orton or Cena and Punk would have been much better options for the main event of WrestleMania. But the whole thing here, they were going to use the WrestleMania main event to kind of build towards Rock and Cena. So if you're going to do that, the best way to go will probably be The Miz and John Cena, because you're not really sacrificing the main event of WrestleMania right there. If you're going to sacrifice it, you might as well go with The Miz, because it just is what it is. I don't like if you're gonna build up a big blockbuster showdown between Cena and Punk. I don't think you really want The Rock involved, if you know what I'm saying. So we go to WrestleMania 27, killer buy rate. This is kind of the buy rate that proved that The Rock is a unbelievable draw. Just it basically proved that The Rock is the man. He doesn't even wrestle, guest host of WrestleMania, but they still managed to, outdo WrestleMania 26 by a couple of 100,000 buys. So they do 1,124,000 buys for WrestleMania 27 with The Rock as the guest host. I mean, they're really, the card isn't very spectacular, so you got to give the credit to The Rock there for being the guest host. And but with this WrestleMania right here, it was kind of one of those WrestleManias where people made fun of it, calling it Entertainia instead of WrestleMania. Worst match of the night, worst match of the year ended up being Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole with Stone Cold as the guest referee. It just ended up going way too long. The crowd hated it. It was just, it shouldn't have been a WrestleMania match. Some people defend the WrestleMania, though. One of the reasons I hate it is because I was expecting to see Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. They ended up cutting the match from the show, so that really, put a bad taste in my mouth. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like the WrestleMania. The good stuff, though. I mean, when you look at the card, it was pretty, some of the stuff came off pretty good. Edge and Del Rio, even though they opened up the show, this shouldn't have opened up the show. I thought it was a big mistake. I thought it really, it made you look at Del Rio like a mid-carder. Even after, you were supposed to look at him as a main eventer after winning the 40-man Royal Rumble. I mean, biggest Royal Rumble ever. You gotta put Del Rio down, further down the card than having him open up the show. You could have opened up with Randy Orton and CM Punk and gave them even more time. That would have been a better way to do it. But basically, Edge and Del Rio, I thought it was a good match. Really good story. Good transitions out of the arm breaker. Armbar submission into the spear. You had Brodus Clay at ringside. You had Christian at ringside. Just a lot of good stuff there. I just think it's a mistake not to give the belt to Del Rio, though. I don't see why you have him win the biggest Royal Rumble ever, and then you have Edge retain. Edge was even going to have neck surgery. I don't know if Edge needed to have, or Edge actually had to retire because his neck was that bad. So I just don't get it. I think if you knew Edge didn't have much left, why not just give the belt to Del Rio? The only thing I could think of is maybe they had bigger plans for him on Raw. Maybe they wanted to move him to Raw. But, I just think if you really want to capitalize on Del Rio's success, you got to put the title on him there. I think him losing this match, it definitely, and the way this whole show opened, it just kind of made you look at Del Rio like, maybe this guy isn't what, we thought he was going to be. So there we go with that. The whole Edge, and, I'm a big Edge and Christian fan, but I just didn't see the point of Edge winning here and even Christian winning at Extreme Rules. I just figured, if Del Rio's supposed to be the guy, just make him the guy. Also, you had Rey Mysterio and Cody Rhodes. Mysterio actually broke Cody Rhodes' nose, so he had to wear a mask. So that had a good build up. That was actually a good undercard match. CM Punk and Randy Orton. It wasn't what I expected. I thought this could have been a lot better. I didn't like the finish with the springboard into the RKO. I just think that's a predictable finish, but at the time, a lot of people did like it. Randy Orton using the angle slam. This came off like a very WWE structured match. I don't think they really gave Punk and Orton the freedom to go out there and steal the show. It was just a very, very safe and WWE structured match where I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan of it. I just feel like they toned the match down because they didn't want to take anything away from Triple H and Undertaker. Triple H and Undertaker had the match of the night because, in my opinion, they were allowed to have the match of the night. So yeah, I mean, the other match would be Triple H and Undertaker. This is kind of like an ego fest for Triple H. After Shawn Michaels, came up short against Taker. This is just a good way for Triple H to go out there and be able to say that he was able to have great matches with Taker too. To me, it did feel a little bit forced. I would agree with that, but at the same time, there was still a lot of great stuff. It was a great story. Really, they did a great job of making Triple H look dominant here, even though he lost the match. I mean, Taker actually had to be wheeled out of the arena, and Triple H was able to walk on his own, even though Triple H ended up tapping out to the Hell's Gate. But they did take you on a ride. Triple H showed a lot of great emotion after Undertaker kept kicking out after pedigree, and the match definitely set up the great Hell in a Cell match the next year. To me, it's just one of those matches where I just feel like it wasn't totally necessary. We've seen Triple H and Undertaker before at WrestleMania 17. And, but, at the same time, it just kind of proved that, the WWE just didn't have a lot of other marquee names to sell the show other than Triple H and Taker. And, Taker and Triple H, no, they still had a lot of juice left, and they definitely got the job done. Even though it just kind of came out of nowhere, and like I said, I just think the whole Shawn Michaels situation, it just it's just inevitable. You just can't compare. You just can't ignore comparing it to the great Shawn Michaels and Undertaker matches. Even though it wasn't as good, it still definitely delivered in its own way. And then the main event ended up being the Miz and John Cena main event of WrestleMania, and yeah, I mean, you kind of, it kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth seeing the Miz go out there in main event WrestleMania. On one hand, it does. The other hand is kind of like, you kind of want to praise the Miz for overcoming the odds and, to actually go out there in the main event of WrestleMania. It's kind of like, wow, like he made it. But at the same time, I don't know, man. It just wasn't, the type of main event where, you could feel happy about what's going on. And, I just think this is one of those matches where, Punk, I think a guy like Punk would kind of look back on it and just say, man, I can't believe the Miz is main eventing WrestleMania over me. And, the match was, I don't know. I like the match. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but for a main event of WrestleMania, you would just expect a lot more. And, the whole match is just a way to set up The Rock and Cena the next year at WrestleMania. So there's a lot of people out there that like long build-ups, and they like these really, really drawn-out build-ups where, it's a whole year in the making. So there is people that probably thought they did the right thing by having The Rock go out there and screw John Cena. But then there's other people out there like me. I'm a big supporter of, you got to do something while it's hot. I'm not a big fan of waiting years and years and years to see one match. So, but yeah. The Miz retains in the main event of WrestleMania. It's something that he always brings up. The Miz retaining here, it's kind of like, he kind of brags about it like Jericho beating The Rock and Austin in the same night. So there we go with that. But WrestleMania financially, it was a success. So that's what it was. To me, it's a great WrestleMania in terms of, The Rock and star power and financial success, but just not, one of my least favorite WrestleManias, as far as the main event and as far as the actual wrestling goes. Extreme Rules. So Extreme Rules does 216,000 pay-per-view buys. One of the better buy rates of the year. You had Cena winning the title back from The Miz. and John Morrison in a steel cage match. So with Miz and Morrison, they used to be tag team partners, so it kind of made sense to have Morrison and the Miz have some matches while Miz was champion. Cena does an attitude adjustment to the Miz off the top rope to win the championship back. What I remember about this match was the WWE acknowledged, I think it was the next night that, or maybe even after the pay-per-view went off the air, that Osama bin Laden was actually killed or captured. I can't remember exactly. But I think he was actually killed. So it was kind of, Cena's always been supportive of the troops and the military. So it was just a nice feel-good victory for Cena to acknowledge that. So that was good. I was glad to see the title back on Cena and finally off the Miz. I thought that was good. To me, CM Punk and Randy Orton had a much better match here. They had a good last man standing matches that opened up the show. See, this was a good last man standing match because it did a main event, so you didn't have that burden of having that long drawn out finish. So they started off the show with a bang, in my opinion. I thought, pretty violent, RKO off the top rope, a lot of kendo stick shots, a lot of good bumps, very violent match. Orton goes over Punk twice in a row. The thing was, Punk had not signed the contract yet, so very rarely, I think, would they have someone that has a contract almost about to expire go over a main event talent. So that's probably why Orton kind of dominated the Punk and Orton feud. The Punk and Orton feud didn't live up to expectations. I think they could have done a lot more with it. It ended up being more of a mid-card feud, to be honest with you. And that was pretty much the feud ender right there, that last man standing match. And then, what stole the show from Extreme Rules was Alberto Del Rio and Christian. They had a ladder match. So Edge had to retire because of the neck problems. And, this opened the door for Christian to get a title shot. Who knows? Maybe if Edge, this whole thing with Edge not retiring, maybe if this hadn't happened, who knows if Christian would have ever been world champion. But so Christian wins the world championship in a ladder match with Alberto Del Rio. Ladder match was great. Very emotional moment with Edge and Christian celebrating at the end. I was very happy for Christian. A lot of people thought he probably wouldn't have gotten it. I think the big mistake that Christian made was going to TNA in 2005. Jericho kind of influenced his decision. I think Jericho wanted to not resign and take some time off. Jericho took like 2.5 years off, if you remember. Christian didn't want to sign either because they had him. They moved him over to SmackDown. He was losing to guys like Booker T. He was starting to get hot, cutting these battle raps on Cena. They had a main event with Cena at Vengeance, but then he started kind of falling off into that same territory again. So he chose not to resign, went to TNA for a couple years. And I think him going to TNA, it just, I don't know, it kind of made Christian, he kind of had to start all over again when he came back to the WWE. He was kind of, in his late 30s at the time. So I think Christian kind of screwed himself and stacked the odds against himself because, if you remember, he was getting hot in 2005. So, retrospect, it's a tough call because I think Christian kind of, he kind of elevated his brand by going to TNA, some would say. I thought he had a good run there. He was able to kind of, show what he can do and prove that he was a true main eventer. But then when he came back to the WWE, he had a tough time. And now when we see with Over the Limit, at Over the Limit, they actually booked Christian versus Randy Orton. So 5 days after Christian won the World Heavyweight Championship, they had him lose to Randy Orton on the next SmackDown. And it kind of came out of nowhere. Once again, Christian was going for like a springboard off the second rope, and then Orton catches him and does an RKO. So Orton basically wins in like 10 minutes. A good SmackDown match, but Randy Orton was drafted over to SmackDown, and all of a sudden Orton's automatically the World Heavyweight Championship. A lot of people thought it was bullshit. There's a lot of angry fans in the IWC around this time, but the Orton winning kind of, it kind of gave Christian a reason to be bitter, and he started complaining week after week about how he was, 5 days after the ladder match wasn't enough time, and then he had this, great match with Orton again at Over the Limit. where they just had a classic match. So Orton and Christian was a good combination. It was, Christian was the perfect opponent for Orton. Orton, to me, always had a tough time carrying bad wrestlers or bigger guys, but with Christian, he was able to fully, explore his moveset. The counters to the Unprettier and to the RKO were beautiful. So definitely, even though the Randy Orton Christian program it probably didn't, draw very well in terms of pay-per-view buy rates and numbers. I would say you probably have to put the bad buy rate for Over the Limit on Orton and Christian as well, even though the Miz probably took a lot of the blame there. So with the other double main event of Over the Limit, you had the Miz taking on John Cena in an I Quit match, and awful match here in the main event. Basically, it really wasn't about the match. It was basically a handicap I Quit match with Alex Riley. Alex Riley was like the Miz's lackey. He was kind of like his bag carrier. By the way, he couldn't get, when he turned face, he flopped as well. He couldn't get over at all. Even though most people would say that he had the looks and had the body, but I think the WWE audience was able to see through, at that time, who really had it and who really didn't. So basically, at over the limit, it was just a way to make Cena look strong, about how he was able to kind of defy the odds and defeat the Miz in an I Quit match, even though they kind of booked it like it was a handicap match. They did a screwy finish there with Alex Riley. Had his cell phone, and they did the Mick Foley thing where they play back, "I will not say the words, I quit, I quit." So they actually awarded the Miz the WWE Championship, but then Kyoto saw the phone and played the audio back, and he realized it was just a audio of Cena saying "I quit." So then they restarted it, and then Cena goes over the Miz, makes him say "I quit" with the STFU right by the Titantron. So there we go with that. The match was just kind of dreadful to watch, kind of a boring match. But, it's one of those storytelling matches where Cena just defies the odds. And, bad buy rate, though. 145,000. That's a lot less than Extreme Rules. That's a lot. That's 60, 70,000 less than the Over the Limit the year before with Batista and Cena. So, the Miz took a lot of the blame there, but, I would also, part of the blame probably goes on Orton and Christian as well. So that's when you look at that number, and then when you look at the disappointing number for Survivor Series, that's probably why a lot of the people backstage blame the Miz for the buy rate there. So Fatal 4-Way the year before, from June of 2010, did an awful buy rate. So they changed the name to Capital Punishment because it was a pay-per-view in Washington, D.C. So you had Barack Obama impersonators. You had the White House theme. So, yeah, it was a pretty refreshing program here. You had R-Truth against Cena in the main event. So R-Truth was doing this whole storyline where, R-Truth made a great heel. He cut some great promos. You thought there was conspiracy theories. He started doing the whole Little Jimmy thing, which got, great reactions. R-Truth really got over as year went on. I thought he was a good heel, very charismatic, very funny. But not necessarily would you want to take him seriously as a main event heel, though. When you had this match here with Cena, it kind of exposed him as being like a, not quite ready for the main event. The match just kind of came off to me like it was a Raw main event. Just Cena getting his generic victory there. They tried to make it interesting with R-Truth hijacking the championship belt from Cena. So Cena didn't actually come down with the championship belt, even though he was the champion. So, Capital Punishment was a solid pay-per-view, though. I thought they, Orton and Cena, Randy Orton and Christian, they probably had the worst match of their program. But the finish still, the finish was really what catapulted Christian to becoming a heel, because the referee screwed him, even though, Orton hit the RKO, but Christian had his foot underneath the rope. So that was good storyline progression there. That kind of led to Christian, always demanding one more match, and always, thought there was, the referees were out to get him. So that kind of triggered Christian's heel turn going in the Money in the Bank. And then you had CM Punk and Rey Mysterio just had a killer match out of nowhere. where with Punk finally defeating Mysterio after getting the short end of the stick in 2010, hits a beautiful go to sleep on him. That kind of, gives Punk the momentum going in the Money in the Bank. And Punk even cut a promo on Capital Punishment where he actually foreshadowed everything and said, I'm going to come out and say the most honest thing that's ever been said in years. So you definitely saw some foreshadowing there, and a lot of good things to come by watching Capital Punishment. Money in the Bank, tremendous success. Obviously, you guys know, I think this is the perfect show. I think the Money in the Bank review that I did, it might be one of my, it's probably one of the best videos I've ever done. And it's hard to kind of, be that passionate about wrestling, but I just remember that was one of the few reviews where just everything, when you're doing the video, you just, you could just feel the energy and the excitement of what was going on. It was just a great pay-per-view. I mean, there is some mixed feelings about it. A lot of people thought the Summer of Punk thing was botched, and a lot of people don't. There are some super smart marks that didn't like the fact that Money in the Bank was such a blowaway pay-per-view, and there is no build up to an even better pay-per-view down the road. So it depends on how you look at it. But everyone loves Money in the Bank, though. Money in the Bank ended up being one of the best pay-per-views in years. The two championship matches delivered. The two Money in the Banks delivered. You had Daniel Bryan winning the Money in the Bank, which was the mark-out moment, one of the best mark-out moments ever. And then you had Del Rio winning the Money in the Bank in a very chaotic and edgy Money in the Bank as well. And then Christian and Orton. Christian ended up winning the World Heavyweight Championship here back by disqualification. There was actually a rule where if Orton got disqualified, or that Christian would actually be awarded World Heavyweight Champion. So Christian got under Orton's skin so bad that he got him DQ'd, and there was great facial expressions from Orton, great emotion from Orton as well, with the the double RKOs on the announce table and the table still not breaking. I remember there was a report that Vince was like really upset that the table didn't break. So there we go with that. That probably led to Christian getting a concussion at SummerSlam. And then Cena and, John Cena and CM Punk at Money in the Bank was, an incredible 5-star match. Just incredible emotion out of the crowd. It really felt like a sports. The whole city was behind Punk, like they were cheering for the Chicago Cubs or the Chicago Bulls. It definitely had that kind of emotion to it. Cena just got a lot of hate as well. And, it's just, Punk cutting that promo on Raw. It was just one of those moments where, I think everyone really just got behind him. It was just a monumental promo. I mean, it's been dissected and talked about for years, but I think when realness in this business comes out, when there's anything that you could touch on and you could relate it to realism, it just makes people so much more invested. And the Money in the Bank buy rate jumped 30,000 buys, which is remarkable considering how much the technology changed from 2010 to 2011. And, there's so many things to touch on the Punk promo. But the interesting thing I'll say about that night is I actually turned Raw off because I really wasn't into the main event. I think it was R-Truth versus Cena in like a tables match. And I was just like, man, I don't know. It's just, I just don't really feel like watching it. And then, and Punk was all over Raw that night. You remember he cut a promo with Shawn Michaels like earlier on in that show. And then, I went on YouTube after Raw was over and everyone was like, holy shit, Punk, or holy shit, you got to see this Punk promo. And I was like, yeah, and I was like, did I miss something? Because, Punk was on the show a lot. But yeah, when I saw it, I was like, oh, holy shit, I can't believe they're going in that direction. He touched on everything. He touched on Ring of Honor, Colt Cabana, New Japan Pro Wrestling, John Laurinaitis, calling Triple H a doofus. It'd be better after the WWE would be better after Vince McMahon is dead, but the fact is it's going to get taken over by his idiotic daughter and his doofus son-in-law and the rest of his stupid family. He cut on people trying to make money off of him with, constantly waiting for autographs. It was just like a whole ball of frustration, or a whole tirade of frustration was let out in that promo. Colt Cabana even touched on how the promo really wasn't that great, but the delivery was so flawless that that's what made it one of the best promos of all time. And I like the fact that he did it with the Stone Cold shirt as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I remember when I quit my basketball team, I had a Stone Cold shirt on when I told the coach. I didn't tell him off, but I politely said, I'm going to quit the team. And I did it with the Stone Cold shirt on. And just like Punk did here with wearing his Stone Cold shirt. So, I didn't really realize that until recently. He cut the promo with a Austin shirt. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, just the emotion and the interest going in the Money in the Bank, it got people invested that kind of were giving up on the WWE product. And, I think everyone knew Money in the Bank was going to be something special. And, yeah, it really was. It definitely ended up being the highlight of the year. And, the whole summer of Punk, it wasn't just that pay-per-view. I just thought every single Raw during that summer was great. You had great tension on the mic between Punk and Cena. You had some great promos between Punk and Vince. And then, Triple H interjected himself into the main event of SummerSlam as the guest referee. And then you had great promos between Punk and Triple H. And so at SummerSlam, to do a rematch, they have Triple H actually becoming the guest referee. And a lot of people were upset. A lot of people... Now here's the thing. Like, a lot of people thought the Summer of Punk thing was flopped. This was one of the storylines where you weren't going to make anyone happy. The only way people were going to be happy, and I'm talking about like the super duper smart marks, the only way they were going to be happy was if Punk went in the Ring of Honor and went into New Japan carrying the WWE Championship. I mean, there's no way around it. The storyline, you've never seen anything like it before. It was kind of like Montreal on steroids. It definitely had that feeling at first, but no matter what they did, people were always going to crap. They were going to crap on the direction they were going in, no matter what. So basically, this is how they did it leading up into SummerSlam. So Punk won the championship like he wasn't coming back, like he didn't sign the contract. And then 2 weeks later, it came out that Punk signed the contract an hour before Money in the Bank. So the whole thing with him blowing Vince McMahon goodbye was just to kind of shove it in his face. So when you get 2 weeks later on Raw, they actually had a tournament for the vacated WWE Championship. It was actually won by Rey Mysterio. So Rey Mysterio goes over Miz. And then since Cena never got a rematch, they gave him a match against the Mysterio. So Cena and Mysterio had an awesome match. Cena wins with the attitude adjustment. So Rey Mysterio is no longer champion. So as soon as Cena wins, Punk comes out. So we have two WWE champions. So that's the sell for SummerSlam. It wasn't a particularly great financial success. I don't think SummerSlam didn't quite do as, what they were hoping for. It did good. It did better than Money in the Bank because it's SummerSlam, but it didn't do, I think, what they expected. So basically you have an undisputed championship match at SummerSlam, John Cena versus CM Punk. Punk hits to go to sleep. Triple H counts to 3, even though Cena had his foot on the rope. So it looked like they might do like a Triple H and Cena feud. That didn't happen there. Kevin Nash comes out and attacks CM Punk out of nowhere. Triple H acts like he didn't have any clue what was going to happen there. So Kevin Nash is the reason why Punk loses the belt. Alberto Del Rio comes out with the briefcase, cashes in. So Alberto Del Rio is the new WWE champion. So you see how kind of convoluted and how distorted the Summer of Punk storyline got. It was kind of going in wacky, maybe even Vince Russo-like direction, some would say. So this was supposed to lead up to a Kevin Nash and CM Punk match at Night of Champions, but that got fucked up because I think Nash had like elevated enzymes. Remember, this is when they were doing the heavy drug testing, so Nash couldn't get cleared to wrestle Punk, so they rushed a CM Punk and Triple H storyline going into Night of Champions. And so this is where everyone started crapping on WWE and saying that they botched the whole Punk angle, they ruined Punk. And I can only defend it so much. Triple H going over Punk here, it Punk even brought this up when he left WWE, and it came out when he told Vince McMahon and Triple H off. He said, "Yeah, but that, he should have put me over." He touched on the fact that Triple H refused to put him over. Now, this is the thing, like the WWE booking style. It's kind of like weird, like a lot of times when they feel like someone really hasn't hit that mega babyface level yet. I think Punk was obviously over with the smart marks, but I think they still felt like he wasn't he didn't quite have like the John Cena fan base where you got the women and the kids and the innocent WWE watchers. He really hadn't connected with them yet, and kind of one of the ways to get everyone on your side is to make you like a sympathetic babyface. So to have interference from the Miz and R-Truth, and to have Triple H get the win over Punk with all this interference. I think even Kevin Nash tried to interfere too. So Night of Champions ended up being like a no holds barred match with a whole bunch of clusterfuck interference. Punk kicked out of like a couple of pedigrees. Actually, it took 3 pedigrees to put Punk away, but Punk ended up losing. But I think the mindset was, we need the mainstream audience to sympathize with Punk, to get him to that next level as a babyface, because that was the whole point. Punk actually turned babyface, even though he was cutting these heel promos on Cena. Punk wanted to be a merchandise seller and a big babyface heading into WrestleMania, and that's the direction they were going in. So I could understand it from Vince's standpoint, and when you look back at the history of WWE, that's kind of what he does to get the guys super over. You'll see him kind of lose. In a way where the fans kind of sympathize with him. So there we go with that. And honestly, I don't really know if Punk turning babyface was the way to go right away. I thought it would have been more engaging to keep Punk as a heel. And then, Punk could be a heel with the mainstream audience, but still like a hero for the super smart marks, kind of the way Bret Hart was with the Canadians. I thought that would have been a better way to go, but instead they kind of wanted Punk to be a babyface and Cena to be a babyface and Triple H to be a babyface too. So I just think, I'm always in favor of, having the heels drive the show, but instead they chose Miz and R-Truth to be the top heels on Raw. So that's why I think some people thought they kind of botched the whole Summer of Punk angle. But also, Randy Orton ended up dominating Christian at SummerSlam in a no-holds-barred match to win that feud. Orton actually drops the championship to Mark Henry. So Mark Henry lost a lot of weight, was getting in good shape, and they invested a lot of money into Mark Henry. So Mark Henry eventually won the championship from Orton, and Orton had a good year though, man. I thought that the Punk feud was, he had some of the best matches of his career with Punk, and the Christian feud ended up being great as far as the match quality goes. And then, the Mark Henry matches had some good storytelling to him. I mean, he really, they really had some engaging matches, even though they weren't great. So Mark Henry goes over Orton at Night of Champions and in Hell in a Cell. As far as the WWE Championship picture goes, Punk was kind of, him and Nash had all these wars on the mic, and then they rushed the Triple H thing. But Del Rio and Cena were kind of going back and forth with the championship. So Cena actually defeats Del Rio by submission at Night of Champions. And that leads into a triple threat match at Hell in a Cell. So the first ever triple threat Hell in a Cell. The Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, I'm not a big fan of it, and I'm not a fan of just having, throwing random matches just so you could say it's a Hell in a Cell. But this was kind of interesting here. The championship scene I thought was refreshing with Del Rio, Cena, and Punk. It's a good core to have in the championship picture. So, first time ever triple threat Hell in a Cell. It wasn't a bad sell, and no pun intended there. But yeah, with this Hell in a Cell match, pretty good story here with John Cena getting locked outside of the cell by Del Rio, and Del Rio using a pipe to hit Punk in it to get the victory there. So you had a good, triple threat Hell in a Cell, violent stuff, good bumps, good effort from all these guys. And basically, this pay-per-view ends with The Miz and R-Truth kind of hijacking the show. They were actually arrested, and fired. So they were building up the Miz and R-Truth for Survivor Series. And, there was like a power struggle between Triple H and John Laurinaitis for control of Raw, because Triple H was the COO. John Laurinaitis was the interim general manager. So it was a huge power struggle there. That was a big storyline at the time. So that, because of that, Triple H and Punk actually, put differences aside and reunited and joined forces to take on the Miz and R-Truth. So Vengeance actually does one of the worst pay-per-views in history, 130,000 buys. I believe it was the second worst buy rate in WWE history of the modern era. So you had John Cena and Alberto Del Rio in a last man standing match. You had the Big Show and Mark Henry. Yeah, so Big Show and Mark Henry. Obviously, that's not a big draw for the show. Obviously, and then you had Triple H and CM Punk taking on the Miz and R-Truth. That's not, they're going to take a lot of blame there. But to me, tag matches are something that we've been accustomed to seeing on Raw. How many times have you seen, tag matches promoted in the main event of Raw, specifically in the Attitude Era? So, you can't promote a tag match like that and expect it to do very well. Del Rio ended up going over Cena in a last man standing match. Basically, Mark Henry and Big Show, the ring implodes, and kind of like it did with Brock and Big Show a couple years ago. Mark Henry superplexes Big Show off the top rope, and the whole ring just explodes. So it was pretty cool how the pay-per-view wasn't bad at all. I actually thought it was a good show, and I just felt like from top to bottom, Vengeance kind of, it exemplified how 2011 had progression with the WWE. I just felt like each and every match you had guys that were elevated from the previous year. I just felt like the whole roster had, more of a purpose than the year before. And we're just, the whole roster just, I just felt like you could see progression in the actual roster as opposed to what was happening in 2010. But, Cena and Del Rio have a good last man standing match. It was pretty innovative, had its own identity, considered that they weren't able to work with ropes. And, I thought it was a great finish. I thought they took you on a roller coaster ride, because it looked like Cena was going to get the win with the attitude adjustment onto the, Spanish announce table. And then all of a sudden, Miz and R-Truth come out, attack Cena. And that sets up the main event for Survivor Series. So The Rock comes back for Survivor Series. Never before, never again. That was the promotion for it. And Survivor Series came off really well. I was actually at this show live, and it came off a lot better than watching it live. The live experience was just a nightmare. It was just it was. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that happened that night, but yeah, I mean, you would think with The Rock teaming up with John Cena against the Miz and R-Truth, they get a killer buy rate. That didn't happen there. They only got 281,000. What they would consider that disappointing. It was a worse buy rate than SummerSlam. I think with The Rock coming back, you would just assume that you get a WrestleMania type of buy rate. I think they were expecting maybe 400,000 or 500,000. That's expecting a lot, especially in this climate. But nonetheless, Survivor Series actually up from a year before. But the Miz took. It was reported that they were going to blame the Miz for that buy rate, because if you look at the buy rate for Over the Limit, you blame that on the Miz. If you get another disappointing buy rate with the Miz in the main event, they're going to blame it on him too. But to me, the Miz and R-Truth, they were a charismatic tag team. They got really over as the year went on. They were funny, but at the same time, you can't really take them seriously as main event heels. They were kind of these cocky chicken shit heels that were mid-carders. I just, for as hard as they tried, you just really couldn't take them seriously as main event level heels. And, I'm just not a big fan of that Survivor Series match. But at the same time, it's kind of like, what can you expect there? I mean, it was going to be a house show. That was people's gripe with it. It was kind of like a house show type of main event. It wasn't anything special. The Rock was able to show what he can do, but they didn't really give away too much. It was just a lot of teasing going on. The match didn't really deliver from a match quality standpoint. And, The Rock was in great shape, though. It came back in great shape, cut a great promo. It really got people excited about WrestleMania. It did his job. It's just disappointing match, disappointing buy rate. There was a lot of "We Want Ryder" chants. It was like Zack Ryder stole the show at Survivor Series. It was like kind of like his show right there. But Survivor Series wasn't bad though. CM Punk defeated Alberto Del Rio for the WWE Championship. They had a really good match. Just a lot of great counters with the arm bar. Didn't really go into overkill mode, but they still had a really good storytelling match. Good counters to the go to sleep. Just an awesome finish with Punk countering the Del Rio's arm bar into the Anaconda Vice. That was a markout moment. I thought it was a good call to have Punk win the title back at Survivor Series instead of him just holding the title from Money in the Bank till WrestleMania. Him winning it back at Survivor Series, it kind of got everybody on his side as a babyface. It was that was a great moment there. You had Team Orton and Team Barrett. That was Barrett and Cody Rhodes ended up being the sole survivors. That was a good match. John Morrison and Dolph Ziggler opened up Survivor Series with a bang. That was good. So Survivor Series came out better. I put this as one of the worst 20 pay-per-views. If you look at my top 20 worst pay-per-view video, I put this on the list. There's two reasons. Well, one was the main event. I just, I'm not a big fan of house show style matches on pay-per-view, and that's exactly what it was. But, it's The Rock's return, so you could kind of get away with it there. So, there's only so much I could defend that. The other problem is, I actually went to the show, and it was just a bad experience. There is a lot of people that got scammed. Even trying to get into the show, the security woman goes like, "Wow, they're really making out tonight." So there was a lot of people that had that ended up buying fake tickets. And there's just a lot of the right. And then it kind of gives the show more of an epic feel, though. It kind of makes it kind of helps The Rock's status as a legend even more. It's kind of like, wow, man, there's just so many people that try to make money off the show, even trying to sell fake tickets, and that's what happened here. Yes, so I actually ended up buying tickets off of Craigslist. They were actually ended up being fake, and then me and my friend were just kind of waiting outside the arena. And eventually we ended up buying tickets again from a scalper outside. And we to play it safe this time, I actually went in by myself. And as soon as I got in, I called him. I said, "Yeah, the tickets are real." And then he paid for it. So, yeah, but, looking back on it, it was just it was a kind of a nerve-wracking night at the time, but looking back on it, it wasn't that bad. We got to see Punk win the championship, and it kind of made The Rock seem like it even boosted his status as a legend. To think so many people were trying to make money off of The Rock for this show, even by selling fake tickets. And then we close off the year with TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. To me, this is a good buy rate, 179,000 buys. In December, no John Cena, Triple H versus Nash in a sledgehammer match. If you remember at Vengeance, Kevin Nash actually screwed Triple H because, Triple H is a power. Triple H was kind of abusing his power, Kevin Nash thought. And because Kevin Nash wanted to turn Triple H against Punk, but Triple H was trying to do a good job and just wasn't having it. So that led to a really bad sledgehammer match between Triple H and Kevin Nash. I'm not a big fan of seeing Triple H and Nash work together. I just, you know what to expect. They feel more like slow Kevin Nash matches from WCW than vintage Triple H WWE matches, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, really, TLC, Zack Ryder wins the United States Championship against, or IC Championship against Dolph Ziggler. That was a great opener there. Ryder really capitalizes on his awesome momentum from Survivor Series when there was "We Want Ryder" chants during The Rock's promo. Also at TLC, you had Daniel Bryan cash in the Money in the Bank. Yeah, Big Show and Mark Henry go out there in a chairs match, which, Big Show and Henry, I'll give Big Show and Henry credit. They had moments where they worked really well at Money in the Bank. The finish at Vengeance was good. Big Show, a lot of people think Big Show's a good worker, for his size. I mean, he definitely he did some good work this year. He started wrestling more of a strong style against Henry. But the chairs match, they kept it really short, and, Big Show ended up winning the title, his first championship in 9 years. since the Survivor Series 2002 victory against Brock. And then Mark Henry took out Big Show after the match was over. So Daniel Bryan comes down and pins Big Show out of nowhere, doesn't even do any offense, and wins the championship. So Daniel Bryan, new world heavyweight champion, he would become a heel eventually. This kind of, it kind of foreshadowed Daniel Bryan's heel turn. But, Daniel Bryan didn't have a lot of matches on pay-per-view this year. Other than his match with Wade Barrett at SummerSlam, there's really not a lot to choose from. So yeah, man, it was awesome to see him win the championship. He actually called Nigel McGuinness after the match was over and said, yeah, man, the WWE gave me the world championship. I'm sorry you're not here to share. I wish you were here to share it with me. So, but that's not the way I envisioned Daniel Bryan winning the world championship. And I wish the WWE would make a stipulation that if you win the Money in the Bank, you have to cash in on an official match. It can't be after a match is over. I know it creates more of a storyline thing, and it creates more drama and more excitement to have that stipulation intact. But, I'm not a big fan of seeing guys win the championship like that. And I think it's hurt the championships, and I think it's hurt the business to a degree. The first time I did it with Edge, it was a great moment. But, I just think overall, winning the championship by cashing in a chicken shit heel fashion, I think it's just been more negative than positive. That's all I have to say about that. So that's pretty much it, guys, with the pay-per-views. I got through everything. So let me give you the top 10 MVP candidates. Number 10, I'm going to go with Daniel Bryan. Like I said, guys, there really isn't a lot to choose from. With Daniel Bryan matches on pay-per-view. He was on SmackDown most of the year. They cut the match with him and Sheamus from WrestleMania. So that really triggered a backlash. And I'm glad, if you watch my WrestleMania 27 review, I put a picture of Daniel Bryan bloody as the background drop for the review. And I'm glad I did that because maybe it did send a message. He did win the Money in the Bank a couple months later, which was a great markout moment. Had a good match with Wade Barrett at SummerSlam. A lot of people griped though that as soon as Daniel Bryan won the Money in the Bank, he was constantly losing on SmackDown. But that's kind of what they do when you're holding the briefcase. You could get away with losing more frequently, and that's what they kind of did with Daniel Bryan there. So it was a frustrating year for Bryan fans as a whole. But like the thing with 2011, it got you excited about what they were going to do with Bryan heading into 2012. Number 9, I'm going to go with Mark Henry. There was some really emotional Mark Henry promos with him losing a lot of weight and him, being on this path of destruction. He had a great theme song from, I believe it was 3-6 Mafia. Somebody's going to get their ass kicked. Somebody's going to get hurt. You're dealing with a man, Mark Henry. And, his matches were good. I would say that the matches against Orton were pretty good. The matches against Big Show, they had his moments. So I'll go with Mark Henry at number 9. Number 8, I'm going to go with The Miz. Miz was the WWE champion. He had that feud with Randy Orton, had a feud with Jerry Lawler. He had Alex Riley as his sidekick for most of the year. And, it was pretty, the Miz is the WWE champion. It is what it is. I mean, not a big fan of The Miz. I was supportive of The Miz when he won the championship because at the time it was like anything was a step up from having Cena or Orton as champion. And when Miz won the title, I was like, all right, finally, it's just something different. But, it's kind of like one of those things like be careful what you wish for because he ended up main eventing WrestleMania, which in my opinion, it was just, I just think, even Kevin Nash said it. He's like, if you're going to put the championship on The Miz, you might as well come out and just say that wrestling is a work. Is pretty much the equivalent of doing the same thing. So I think a lot of people felt that way. However, though, I do respect The Miz, and he does have great mic skills, and it is kind of a remarkable story if you look at where The Miz was in 2004 and look at him going into 2011, and there's just a lot of stuff going on with Michael Cole too. Like 2011, it kind of became like the Michael Cole and The Miz show. Michael Cole was the perfect guy to support The Miz because Cole, he always took criticism for his commentary, and Cole always took a lot of criticism for being too WWE, which means like he kind of had a Vince McMahon mentality where he didn't give a fuck about anything other than WWE, which is kind of why he was kind of anti Daniel Bryan. And so just a lot of like I said, the seeds were kind of planted for even the more escalation with this whole Daniel Bryan and MIZ thing, which we saw blow off just recently. Number 7, I'm going to go with Rey Mysterio. So, Mysterio wasn't that heavily involved in any storylines. He worked a good program with Del Rio on SmackDown going on to 2011. He's just one of those guys that is amazing in multi-man matches, was great against Edge in the Chamber, did some great stuff with Del Rio at Money in the Bank. Del Rio actually took his mask off before he won the Money in the Bank. So yeah, that's really what I remember from Mysterio this year. He actually won the championship on Raw. Yeah, so he won the vacated championship, had an awesome match with Cena. So, Rey, this is pretty much one of Rey's last years as he was winding down. But just, even though he was getting up there, a lot of people were just like, man, Mysterio still has it. So I still put Rey Mysterio on here, even though he wasn't that heavily utilized in the main event, in the storylines or even on pay-per-view that much. And number 6, I'm going to go with Dolph Ziggler, the show-off. Yeah, so Ziggler just had, good show-stealing performances. He actually won the World Heavyweight Championship, was awarded by Vicky Guerrero. Great match with Edge at the Royal Rumble, good mid-card matches with Zack Ryder, John Morrison. It just brought a lot of athleticism and a lot of juice to the scene. He even said at Survivor Series, like, follow that. I'm going to follow it by following myself, because he had to interject himself into the Survivor Series tag match. That's Ziggler here. Ziggler's athletic. Some people think he's a Shawn Michaels ripoff. Even Michaels said that he kind of overdoes it with the HBK mannerisms and stuff like that. But Ziggler, he would even go on to have a better year in 2012 where he won the Money in the Bank. But this is still a good year for him. He had some solid tag matches with, tagging up with Jack Swagger. The whole Swagger, Ziggler, Vicky Guerrero was kind of like a good little stable on SmackDown as well. And number 5, I'm going to go with Christian Cage. So yeah, it ended up being Christian's best year as a singles competitor. Really was the, beating Alberto Del Rio for the World Championship at Extreme Rules in a ladder match, having a great program with Randy Orton. Christian started off as a babyface, kind of transitioned into being a crying chicken shit type of heel. Christian's a good heel, but I can't say that he plays the type of heel that's going to draw money. It's just one of those heel gimmicks where I just think a lot of people just didn't see Christian as a main event guy, particularly against Orton. A lot of people thought it was, a lot of people probably wouldn't have booked Randy Orton against Christian. They probably would have gave him a different opponent just so that you could keep the championship on Christian. But when Orton beat Christian, though, it caused a lot of controversy. But at the same time, I thought Christian did a good job as a heel. It was very, very engaging. He actually came out with this catchphrase called, even though he was a heel, the catchphrase actually caught on. He was like, "One more match. I deserve one more match." And and Christian actually had some good matches with Sheamus as well. There was a good little program. Sheamus actually had a good year this year. I thought him turning face, I thought it suited him a lot more, and he was able to do some good things with Christian that got the fans on his side. So give it up to Christian. This was probably the highlight of his WWE career as a main event singles wrestler. Number 4, I'm going to go with Del Rio. Like I said, he won the 40-man Royal Rumble. Good matches with Edge and Christian. They interjected him into the Raw title picture after winning the Money in the Bank. The thing with me with Del Rio, I just think there was a lot of mixed feelings on him. I just feel like, I don't know what happened here, man. I just think a lot of people thought that he. I think there was people backstage that wanted him to get to the top, and I think he had his detractors as well. In both championship scenes, it seems like they kind of gave up on him. He's you would think that he's going to become champion on SmackDown and stay champion on SmackDown, and all of a sudden he's drafted to Raw, wins Money in the Bank, and looks like he's going to be in the Raw title picture, and then all of a sudden he's not anymore. They chose Christian over Del Rio, or they chose Randy Orton. They chose Randy Orton basically over Del Rio on SmackDown. And then on Raw, instead of making Alberto the man, it seems like they really chose Cena and Punk over Del Rio. So in both cases, you know, he was kind of, after both championship runs, he was kind of relegated to being a mid-carder. So yeah, man, Del Rio won the 40-man Royal Rumble, but I think what hurt Del Rio is him opening up WrestleMania 27. I think that was a big no-no. Even if you put the match, you know, even if you put Edge and Del Rio at WrestleMania, like, you know, a couple matches from the main event, it still looks a lot better than opening up the show, if you know what I'm saying. Number 3, I'm going to go with John Cena. You know, what can I say about Cena this year? You know, he probably had the best match of his career with Punk. Great series of matches with Punk. Good matches with Del Rio. Did a lot of stuff with the Miz to build up the whole Rock feud. Cut some great promos on the Rock. And, you know, Cena is still the face that runs the place in 2011. This is when, you know, Rock started calling him Fruity Pebble. All that crazy stuff. And I was just kind of shocked at how some of the Rock's new catchphrases caught on. It seemed like anything the Rock said, even though it seemed like it was corny, like they became big catchphrases. Like boots to asses is something that I think is kind of corny and really not that creative. But then all of a sudden you hear, you know, people chanting boots to asses and Fruity Pebbles, like they became big catchphrases. So there we go with that. Number 2, I'm going to go with Randy Orton. Yeah, Orton had one of his best years in the ring. Not a lot of great personality from Orton, but he had good opponents. Punk, Christian, you know, matches with Mark Henry that exceeded expectations. Actually had a chairs match with Wade Barrett. He actually feuded with Wade Barrett at the end of the year. Some of the Barrett and Orton matches were actually critically praised, believe it or not. So there we go with that. So Orton, and like I said, guys, I think it's a lot easier to stay a babyface on SmackDown. And what we saw here with Randy Orton, as soon as he beat Christian, there was a lot of fans on SmackDown that were automatically on his side. But then when you get to Money in the Bank, that's really the only pay-per-view where Orton heard a lot of mixed reaction, a lot of boos, and there was more crowd support towards Christian because, you know, when Christian went to TNA, he kind of ingratiated himself into the, you know, hardcore YWC fan base by making that move to TNA. And then number 1, I'm going to go with obviously CM Punk. The match quality that Punk had in 2011 was extraordinary. You know, Punk had one of the best years wrestling-wise as anyone had in the WWE. I mean, he pretty much had the match of the pay-per-view on a lot of pay-per-views. I mean, he really did. You know, just great stuff in the ring. Punk's delivery on the mic, his frustration on the mic where he just let loose. And, you know, I mean, there's so much you could say about it. I could spend all day talking about exactly what CM Punk did in 2011. But maybe this is a good time to bring this up. I just think that he knocked down such a door, and by the end of the year, you know, Punk just seemed so happy at TLC when he had that TLC match with Alberto Del Rio and Miz, and they you know, Miz handcuffed him to the ring, and that was great creativity, great drama there in that TLC match, and when he won it, he just seemed so happy and on top of the world at the end of 2011, and he broke down such a door. I just think though, like, the way Punk left, though, it really hurt the business, and I think it hurt, you know, the WWE's attitude towards, you know, the indie guys. I really think it did. I think that's why we've seen so much investment in a guy like Roman Reigns, to be completely honest with you. And I don't know, man. I just think like he. Like Punk just, like him not finishing what he started and him just like leaving the way he did, you know, right before WrestleMania. I just think it really, I'm not saying it hurts Punk's legacy or anything like that. I don't, you know, Punk is still, you know, for professional wrestling wise, you know, Punk is still great and everything, but I just feel like it hurt. I just feel like it's hurting the business. You know, when Punk left in 2014, I just think it's taken its toll, and I just think had he not left, I just think the product would be a lot better now, and I think it would have helped. I would think it would have helped out other guys as well. And I know there's some other things that happened with Daniel Bryan's injuries. Injuries played a big part in it as well, but I just feel like him completely getting out of pro wrestling. It really hurt the business. in North America, I would say, just North American wrestling. The whole state of the indies, and so that's pretty much it with that. I just wish he would have, the exodus of Punk. I just wish it just would have been executed a lot better than what it was. It just felt very random, just very rushed. And when so many people look at you as a leader, like they did with Punk, I just think there were so many people that were invested in him and that were relying on him. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think it could have been handled a lot better. And like I said, and I still believe that out of the three major walkouts in WWE history, I still think Punk's walking out hurt the most. So that's pretty much it, guys, for 2011. I'll just leave you with the top 10 matches of the year. Not going to get too much into depth. CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio from Survivor Series. This is what started the long CM Punk world title reign, and that match came off great. Like I said, guys, it doesn't have like those overkill near falls and spots, but the finish with the Anaconda Vice was really well executed. Next up, I'm going to go with the Elimination Chamber. Cena, Punk, Orton, R-Truth, Sheamus, Morrison. This is the main event of Elimination Chamber. Cena goes over Punk. Punk basically screws Randy Orton in this match after Punk, couldn't get out of his pod, and they reinstated him into the match. That whole thing, I think Punk was just doing a whole swerve there, so that was good storyline progression. And then Cena and like I said, had good star power. Cena wins the match with the STFU to become the number one contender going into WrestleMania to challenge the Miz. Number 8, I have Alberto Del Rio and Christian from Extreme Rules, the ladder match. This is when Christian finally became the World Heavyweight Champion. Number 7, I have CM Punk versus John Cena from SummerSlam. Triple H is the guest ref. That's an undisputed championship match. Kevin Nash interferes, screws Punk out of the title after Punk actually beats Cena, and then Del Rio comes out and cashes in. So that's a SummerSlam main event that has a lot of different layers and a huge aftermath to it. Number 6, Randy Orton versus Christian from SummerSlam, no holds barred. To me, like the no holds barred weapon stipulation, I'm not a big fan of it like I used to be. I'd rather watch a straight up singles match, but this was still good though. I think this is one of those matches you could look to where Christian, it really took its toll on Christian's career. Christian had some concussion problems, maybe from the RKO on the table. The table actually broke on this spot, and then they did they did kind of the tribute to the SmackDown finish where Orton beat Christian. This time they had Orton do the RKO on Christian on the steel steps, while Christian does the fake out and jump off the second turnbuckle. So yeah, that had a crazy finish as well. So that's Orton and Christian from SummerSlam at number 6. And number 5, I got the Money in the Bank where Daniel Bryan won the Money in the Bank, the opening of SummerSlam. To me, that was an even bigger markout moment than Punk winning the title. Number 4, I'm going to go with Randy Orton versus Christian from Over the Limit. To me, that's the best Orton and Christian match. Great counters. The spear spot was an awesome kick out. Unprettier into the RKO, backslide, counter. The counters are unbelievable in this Orton and Christian feud. They definitely stole the show. Over the Limit is probably the worst pay-per-view of the year. But Orton and Christian definitely really the only match to check out from that show. Number 3, I'm going to go with Edge, Big Show, Rey Mysterio, Kane, Drew McIntyre, Wade Barrett, Elimination Chamber. Edge retains the World Heavyweight Championship to look strong going into WrestleMania. Really, when you look at the talent in this match, I can't say any of these guys other than Edge had a chance of winning this match. So kind of a predictable match, but Edge and Mysterio work their magic and deliver one of the best matches of the year in the opening match of the Elimination Chamber. At number 2, I'm going to go with Undertaker and Triple H from WrestleMania. So Triple H looks stronger than Undertaker, even though the Undertaker wins the match. That's how they booked it. So this was set up the Hell in a Cell the very next year. I have mixed feelings on this. I think it's like out of any match in WWE history, I kind of call this an ego fest. But, I'll give both guys credit. It's still good. And, oh, by the way, man, that Shawn Michaels and Undertaker promo from Raw the other night was awesome. Don't really want to see an Undertaker Triple H match at this stage, especially at Super Showdown. I like the way Shawn Michaels kind of shitted on the name of the pay-per-view and kind of crapped on the amount of time it was going to take to get to Australia, 98 hours. But yeah, that was a great promo between Shawn and Undertaker. I could actually do a whole video on that promo. That's how good it was. But yeah, not really too excited to see an Undertaker Triple H match now. But back at WrestleMania 27, it was still good enough to be the second best match of the year. And then number one, we have CM Punk versus John Cena from Money in the Bank 2011. Dave Meltzer gave this 5 stars. I believe the first match he gave 5 stars since Taker and Shawn from Hell in the Cell 97. So obviously that shows you how good it was. But tremendous crowd, tremendous finish. Just everything about the match, just so much emotion. To me, the Punk and Cena feud was a lot better than the Davey Richards, Eddie Edwards feud from Ring of Honor. Now, so let me close the video like this, and I'll just say this: I took a lot of heat at the end of 2011 when I felt like WWE was the better product than ROH. There's some people that supported me, some people that didn't, but and it's tough because ROH got off to such a great start in 2011, but I just felt like when they sold the company, you started to see guys leaving like Austin Aries, Christopher Daniels, El Generico. So many guys left. Jim Cornette took over with the booking. There just really wasn't a lot to look forward to. With the whole Best in the World show, even though some people thought it was great, but what can you really look forward to? There's no way Gabe would have booked Davey and Eddie the way they did. You can't have a face versus face match between Davey and Eddie, 2 guys that suck on the mic 2 times in a row. That was a big no-no. Gabe was a lot better at booking Davey than anybody as far as getting him to be a heel. I thought I thought Davey Richards should have been a heel in 2011. So that's the other thing. And then you had the world's greatest tag team becoming tag team champions. So basically I just felt like there was more to look forward to in the WWE heading into 2012 than ROH did. And, obviously ROH sold the company to Sinclair. The company's never been the same since. And to me, like the WWE just, even though there were some frustrating things with the year, obviously WrestleMania, the MIZ in the main event, obviously the WWE had a smorgasbord of problems in the beginning of 2011. But, there was just a lot of different things that just got you excited about WWE heading into 2012. Daniel Bryan winning the championship, the whole summer of Punk, The Rock coming back, Dolph Ziggler's emergence, Zack Ryder's emergence, new guys in the main event, Del Rio's push, even though some people would say that it flopped. But, you get my drift. I just think the WWE have more to be proud of in 2011 than ROH did. Let me know what you guys think about it now, looking back at WWE in 2011. And I'll see you guys later. All right.